I'm sitting here with Momodou Taal, an international graduate student from the UK, an activist who was recently suspended after participating in a pro-Palestinian protest last week. The protest shut down a career fair attended by defense contractors L3Harris and Boeing. Can you tell me about what happened at that career fair protest last week, what the status of your suspension is, and how these past few days have impacted you personally?
Absolutely. First and foremost, thanks for having me on. As for the specifics of the career fair, I can only speak from my perspective and what I saw. So beginning with the rally at Day Hall in Classical Cap, and then the crowd proceeded to move to Statler Hotel. From my perspective, it seems like there was a brief confrontation with the police, with the crowd, and the police kind of stepped aside and the crowd walked in. Upon being inside the Statler, I was in Statler, I would say, for no more than 5 minutes, and I actually left at that point. After leaving, I went to get my stuff, which I left at Day Hall, and then I went home. Later on, I learned that the careers fair was shut down. So fundamentally, I think there's been an attempt by some in the administration to kind of clamp down on pro-Palestinian activism on campus in this moment. And for some reason, they've identified me, I guess, due to my visibility and me being outspoken. I think they've identified me as somewhat of a leader, and they want to kind of make an example out of me in this moment, I think. And I think it's tough because it seems like almost like a David and Goliath battle right now, because it's like me versus this $1 million institution who's, who I don't believe they're working entirely by themselves. I do have information that can kind of support that there's outside forces as well that are trying to like push for my deportation as well. I think that's where the pressure is coming from.
Can you tell me about why you were at this disruptive career fair protest in the first place? What issues spurred you to even be there in the first place?
But again, thank you for asking that question. I think, again, that's been written in narrative. I think somehow the narrative is framed as some uppity kids who have nothing better to do. But I think these kids are the best of us, actually. They're showing that they still have their humanity intact. They're witnessing the daily massacre of the ghetto Palestinian people. And rightfully so, they have a sense of righteous indignation. And I'm part of that. I put myself in that camp. Knowing how Cornell, even though there's talk about institutionality, but we know that Cornell has by way of its investment holdings, has a financial interest in what's taking place right now. And again, it's not new. We have a legacy of divesting from anti-apartheid struggles as well. So it's in that legacy that we're thinking, us at Cornell, rather than feeling helpless in the situation that what we see is a massacre, we're seeing, okay, what is it that we can do? And this is what we feel like we can do.
At present, I want to touch on something you just talked about. The Sun has not learned of any other suspensions relating to last week's career fair disruption, though there were more than 100 other students participating in that protest. And you've been saying that you believe the university has singled you out, that there might have been outside pressure involved. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. I think fundamentally, the fact that you've mentioned there were more than 100 students there, it begs the question, why me, right? Even though the university has said that, there's a third referral, but my constant response to that has been the first 2 referrals, there was no resolution, there was no investigation. I didn't have a chance to have an appeal, and then have a chance to see the evidence against me and refute the claims that are being said. So again, once again, it begs the question, why one person? And I think, again, it goes back to the targeting of people who are in precarious positions. I think, unfortunately, my identity has been very proud of my faith as a Muslim and a black man. I think that in an environment where increasingly those identities are becoming more and more unwelcome, I think it's unsurprising that I became a target.
I mean, do you know what's next for you in terms of your legal status, where you'll be in a week? Do you know if you'll even be able to stay in the country?
I have one more shot at an appeal, which I'm going to lodge soon. And then from that point, I have to kind of figure out what my next steps are. I haven't made any concrete plans yet, because I do hope that cooler heads will prevail. And I do hope that those in administration some of those in administration can see this for what it is. And I think given the faculty support, the overwhelming student support, the outside support as well, We have a petition with over 7,000 signatures as well. I do hope that cooler heads will prevail and they will see that, okay, this is like an injustice. And I think to add, I think it's important, like me being here, every year we hear about the Willis Strait takeover in 1969, right? And then this department, Africana, here at Cornell, was the first in this country. Cornell celebrates its legacy of activism. And I think we have to ask the question, what message are we sending out to students who have participated in non-violent protest on campus about an issue that they feel strongly about? What message are we sending when simultaneously we celebrate the rich legacy of Africana and other forms of activism on campus, while simultaneously being so repressive and draconian on students exercising their First Amendment right?
So that appeal, it's going to go through the provost, John Siliciano.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had any message to the provost, any message to the administrators who authorized your suspension about what you hope they understand of your perspective.
I think I have a message to our current interim president. And I think I've read a few of his interviews in which he speaks about modeling civil dialogue and civil discourse. So my message to him is that I've yet to speak to him. So I have an invitation. I would like to speak to him directly. I think, and I would like a pause in any proceedings until I get an opportunity to speak to him in a public kind of community forum in which we can have a dialogue. And I think this could be a step forward of, okay, the university is meeting, not in a form of negotiations, not in a form of demands, but in a listening session. And I think that would be quite powerful. I'm open to that. I'll be taking me up on that.
Yeah, so as a graduate student, before you were suspended, you were instructing a first-year writing seminar titled What is Blackness?
Yeah.
Obviously, you haven't been able to teach this week. You've been banned from campus.
Yeah.
How have your students, your first years, reacted to the suspension?
Once again, overwhelming support. And I think it flies in the face of what the narrative is. The narrative is that I'm somehow a danger to campus. The narrative is that somehow I engage in a violent protest. But when we look at what my students have said, they said the types of environment I create in classrooms have been one of open dialogue, discourse. I welcome challenges against my position. I challenge their positions. So that for me is what Cornell should be about. And I think my classroom and the environment I create in my classroom is a testament to those values that Cornell says to uphold.
What message do you have for the Cornell community about what your suspension means? What message do you want students and faculty, staff, parents, and administrators to know about, what this all means?
I think, to quote our interim president, there is a kind of sustained campaign and war against higher education right now. And I think by targeting me in this way on this issue, it's so much bigger than me. And again, this is not about particularly focusing on the issue at hand, which is Palestine, even though you cannot separate the two. But this is an issue of due process and it's an issue of freedom of speech. And I think those things are, wherever you sit on the spectrum, I hope people can agree on those things.
Thanks for talking to me, Momodou.
Thank you.